Is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos, they're taking their health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration
policy... I said it's a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, but
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed.
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy, I mean, is that not a fear of yours?
They're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaged in a vehicle ramming
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the
demonstration.
National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested some 70 people since June. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They refute what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of this stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
All I have to say, it's Miller time. Hey, Stephen Miller, he's that guy. When it comes to debating these issues, he's that guy. This is off of the intro. I don't know why CNN hosts tend to do this. I don't know, is the problem I always point out, liberal bias, and these people just can't help themselves to downplay things that could be detrimental to the Democratic brand, to the leftist brand, right? Because Trump designated Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, and it seems like a lot of liberals and leftists have a problem with that distinction. But when these people are conducting themselves the way that they're doing, right, obstructing ICE from carrying out their procedures, their jobs, I'm sure you guys see the video all over the internet because you're not going to see it on the TV. And this is why, as a millennial, I always say this quote, and you guys can steal this quote because I heard it somewhere else as well. I would rather trust the internet more than I would trust the TV, because on the television, they're not going to show you clips highlighting how the protesters are being violent and antagonistic to ICE, right? There was a viral clip of one of these Antifa kids, second night in a row, pouring paint all over the place, and he finally got arrested with ICE, and he's here shaking like a chicken, shaking like a chicken once he got some so-called accountability. And this is what these Antifa people needed. This is what leftists need. Leftists have this delusion about themselves that they're untouchable. And I think that's one of the reasons that's pushing them culturally to celebrate the political deaths of their rivals, because I honestly believe that the leftists think that they're untouchable politically, culturally. This is why they're freaking out when people are losing their jobs and stuff, because they were like, wait, the rules don't apply to me. I'm a leftist, right? And I want to play another clip of this because I find it baffling that this CNN host is going out of his way to downplay the attacks on ICE. And I'm going to show you a clip of an Antifa person spitting on a border patrol officer. And when he takes aggressive action against them, right, the left will cry foul. They'll whine, oh my God, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. You spat on a man. That's the ultimate sign of disrespect. But leftists are not known to call out the indecent behavior of their side. But I digress, because this is another example of some of the points, and I'm gonna play the clueless CNN host trying to downplay these attacks on ICE after that clip, because it just goes to show what kind of reality are they living in. And I agree. I think a lot of the times it seems like we're talking past each other, but I digress. Let's take a look at the clips.
Get out of our state! Get out of here, bitch! Get out of our state!
I looked at the police data, and police have made something like 70 total arrests since June, and there are no reports of buildings being burned to the ground. The White House cited a guillotine being rolled out as like a public display of rebellion, but there isn't actually a threat that these demonstrators are going to overthrow the government. Are you concerned that that response weakens your legal argument?
No, they are actually, as we speak, trying to overthrow the core law enforcement function of the federal government. Boris, this is, I think, where we're talking past each other. When ICE officers have to street battle against Antifa, hand-to-hand combat every night to come and go from their building, when they try to exit in a vehicle, when they are swarmed and surrounded and they try to tip the vehicle over, when people bring weapons to an ICE facility to try to engage in direct violent assault against ICE officers, what is the purpose? It is to prevent Immigration and Customs Enforcement from carrying out the mission the American people elected them to do. Their objective is to make it impossible for ICE to carry out ICE enforcement. When in our history have we tolerated unlawful riotous assemblies night after night around FBI buildings or ATF buildings or DEA buildings? This is the textbook definition of domestic terrorism, using the actual and imminent threat of violence to keep federal officials from doing their jobs. And unless we send in troops and resources, then we will continue to bleed federal law enforcement resources in these street battles. It's absurd, it's unconstitutional, and must be put down.
Hey, I'm not going to waste any time, right, giving any commentary on this one, because I believe this point here by Stephen Miller, I think this is an 11-minute video, but I think I'm going to give it a good 2 minutes, 3 minutes, my usual, right? Because I don't want to, take up a lot of your guys' time, because at the end of the day, the framing here, the debate here is, hey, does the judge have a right to block the National Guard from being deployed into Portland, right? The federal government has a federal interest because of the fact that their buildings and facilities are being targeted, right? And this is where we're talking about judicial activism, right? These people are letting their own political biases bleed into their work, bleed into their judgment, and they do uncommon sense things like this. And then when it gets overruled, the left want to cry foul. And this is why the Republicans, they're not playing with the hand behind their back no more. They're like, all right, you want to cheat too? Okay, let's put some concrete on our gloves too. And the left don't like it because it seems like the left have no sense of honor.
Battles. It's absurd, it's unconstitutional, and must be put down.
You cited Title 10 a moment ago, and under that statute, you need either a foreign invasion, a domestic rebellion, or a disturbance that inhibits the ability for law enforcement to carry out federal law. But ICE is still conducting operations. Like the facility.
Think about it. Disturbance, Antifa, obstructing. These people are, there's a video I saw in LA. Cars driving around where ICE is at, following ICE, honking, signaling, trying to let the people in the area know if an illegal is within earshot. ICE is here, ICE is here, announcing ICE is arriving. That's not getting in the way of what ICE is doing. See, these people are trying to create doubt. Because at the end of the day, this is what CNN and a lot of these liberal institutions do. When they try to fact check you, they're not fact checking anything. All they're trying to do is cast doubt on your justification, your reasons for carrying out your orders, your actions, your approach, right? Because a fact check, in my estimation, is you highlight either a statement is false or true. That's it. It's not, you saying this without evidence. Well, you don't have any evidence to contradict what I'm saying here. So you're saying Kenny's making a claim without evidence. You're making a claim without evidence. You're making a fact check without evidence, because a fact check has to give you a true or false conclusion. either what I said was true or whether I said was false. That's a true fact check. A true fact check isn't Donald Trump made a statement without evidence. It just means we don't have the information to validate yet. But doesn't mean his claim is impossible, right? And it's the problem I have with the mainstream media. This is why I call constantly the liberal bias, because I really truly believe this ideological bias has corrupted the institution to the point that it's no longer like effective or beneficial to the American people and the collective knowledge system in the U.S. politics. But I digress. Let's continue.
He hasn't been overrun. It seems like local officials are fairly in control of the operation if ICE is still able to execute its mission, is it not?
Do you have any idea how much of ICE's workforce and resources have had to be reprioritized? How much of the Joint Terrorism Task Force's resources have had to be reprioritized to fight these domestic terrorists? Do you have any idea how many resources are spent
you keep
trying
calling
to
them
hunt down and
terrorists, but
track
isn't that hyperbolic to call them terrorists?
What is? If anything, I'm understating the severity of the situation. What issue was more central in 2024 than turning back the border invasion? And since the day we came in, ICE officers have been subjected to a nonstop campaign of physical violence and harassment every single day.
And that's one of the reasons why they had to cover their mask, right? But, Democrats, plausible deniability, they're pretending they don't understand what's going on. They pretend that they're clueless, right? They pretend that they don't understand what's going on. Oh, they didn't know that, ICE families were being threatened. That's why ICE was covering their masks, right? What are you so scared of, right? Gavin Newsom, right? We just finished happening in Chicago, right? People try to attack ICE. Political violence going against the right. Law enforcement. You got Democratic potential AGs like Jay Jones having text messages talking about how police should be killed so they can understand what it's like to be affected by police brutality. Right? This is the left. Oh, but isn't it hyperbolic to call them a domestic terror organization?
And outside the Portland field office in particular, every night, they come, they assemble, they fight, they try to impede movement, they physically attack. For what purpose? Because we had an election, Boris. We had one. What's the purpose? To use actual physical violence to change the result of the election, to say you cannot turn back the border invasion. Do you have any idea how many resources we have had to redesignate to deal with these street terrorists?
You explain that. Let me ask the question. Let me ask the question. You make the case that these are terrorists, but in what we've seen thus far, the actual incidents of people inciting violence and not responding to law enforcement attempting to disperse them are not an open rebellion. I mean, again, you make this characterization as though they're terrorists, and I do wonder if it is potentially a problem in the future for Republicans. If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration.
I think, as an example that comes to mind, is when Texas tried to enforce their own borders and Biden sent in the federal agents to tear down the barbed wire fence on the southern Texas border, right? And, many people were calling for, Gary Abbott is enacting insurrection, right? Oh, that's up to the president. That's the president's jurisdiction to do that. Something like that already happened. Right. And at the end of the day, you still have to make the case. You still have to justify your actions. And I think Trump has a more credible case of justifying his action. Hey, I'm just trying to deport these people. And these people are in these so-called sanctuary cities where they're not complying or actually actively getting in the way of ICE trying to deport these people who we actually want, who we actually campaign and convince the American people to elect us into power to carry out and do. And all the Democrats got is, someday. I hope that day never comes. I hope it goes 10 years, 15 years without a Democratic president. So that way they can stop doing this little BS. What if this? What if? No, what's going on right now? On the merits, is Trump justified in trying to do this, to try to push in his campaign, his mandate? Yes or no? Who won the election? He did. Okay, why these unelected judges are getting in his way? You're actually speaking out against the will of the people. You can't find a poll that you find majority support of American people not agreeing with what Donald Trump is doing. Most Americans want mass deportation. Now, you may not like the style in which he's carrying it out, but end of the day, you can't argue with the results. It's the same thing with crime. You can't argue with the results. And it seems like Democrats are trying to argue with the results by trying to placate some emotional appeal. And I think Americans' heart has hardened right now because, we need to do this. This needs to happen. And hell or high water, emotional grievances, emotional reasoning, sob stories, all be damned. It must go. It must happen. And I think that's the mindset I think a lot of our conservatives specifically are having right now with this issue. Yeah, it sucks it happened, but it had to happen. It needs to happen. And I think the emotional gaslighting, it don't work the same no more.
That gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear?
They're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaging in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11...
Stand-down order in Chicago, stand-down order in Portland. And like, where's the follow-up question? What the follow-up question is going to be? Attempts to downplay it, right? Like you don't believe me? Like, it's going to be an attempt to downplay it, right? You saw the clip.
1,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon. That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested some 70 people since June. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground.
This is deflection. Like, okay, but you're not calling it, hey, like, why isn't that Democrats are not helping with complying with this? It goes against a political interest, right? But you don't want to dig into that. You don't want to go into that conversation, so you try to reroute it somewhere else to try to make some case that, there's some concerns about this stuff. And I think a lot of Americans are like, yo, this makes no damn sense. Texas, hey, they don't have this issue because they're working with the Trump administration. Why can't Democrats do that? And the answer always comes down to because Democrats benefit from illegals being in the country. This is why they're getting rowdy. This is why they're trying to obstruct ICE. This is why they're going out of their way to make ICE job a lot harder to carry out. This is why they're leaking information from inside the government. This is why you got these apps that's trying to tell illegals where ICE is going, right? To notify ICE. Because the left benefits from having illegals in the country. For political reasons, politics, money, personal interest, but it goes against the national interest. And I think this is one of the biggest missing pieces to Democrats' messaging, is that they can't pitch to an American first agenda. They can't pitch to Americans as a voting bloc. This is why they always have to divide you into a Latina, a black, a white, this, that, gay, straight. This is why they have to divide you. So they can cherry pick, okay, this is where, because they can lean those policies where they benefit from it. This is how the Democrats win. They do this, here's for black people, but we stay in control of them, right? They stay small, they stay controllable, they stay guilty to us, we can control them. We go, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, right? They pull all this BS. This is why they like to use identity politics. Because that way they can push a policy that could go against, technically it's bad for the entire American interest, but it might be good for one specific group. And then they go to the other group and say, hey, look, we may promise them this specific thing, but we'll promise you this specific thing. Because at the end of the day, those policies, at the end of the day, it helps Democrats' power. It helps Democrats' leverage. And that's the game of divide and conquer. That's the game of identity politics. And that's why I reject identity politics. I see nothing more than a tactic to control a large swath of people that in the broader sense hurts their entire overall interest. But I digress. I leave it up there. Stephen Miller was cooking. And this is why a lot of people don't watch CNN, right? Because the guy acts like it wasn't an interesting conversation. Like it was just like him essentially playing defense for the Democrats, playing defense for why Chicago is not helping out with ICE. Instead of like, that would be interesting conversation to go down that thought road. Hey, okay, why do you think Chicagoans, the Chicago mayor and Portland are not helping you, ICE? Don't you think they think you're doing something unconstitutional here? And it would have laid into some deeper conversation that will not make the Democrats look good. And it seemed like CNN and a lot of these liberal journalists, they're biased. They can't get in the way. Their bias always get in the way of their actual job, because it seemed like they're a propagandist first and a journalist second. But let me know your thoughts and perspective about my thoughts, your thoughts in the comment section. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.